All right, we are live. Hey guys, it's Justin. Tonight we're gonna have a little bit different live stream for you. Um, we will be tying one fly, pretty cool fly. But tonight we have some special guests with us. Uh, this is Addie Dees, who was the manager here of Ugly Bug Fly Shop and certified badass. Also was a guide for a while, and then this lady right here is Kathy Genthner, who is my mother, and today we're gonna talk a little bit about women in fly fishing. My mom is relatively new to fly fishing, so she's got an interesting perspective there, and Addie's been doing this for a while, and she's pretty good at it. But while we're waiting for some more people to get in here, I'm going to zoom in on the vise here, and Addie's going to tie a variation of the rockworm for us.
It's a kind of fly.
All right, you're good.
Yeah, about the simplest fly you can tie. Just a little rockworm and a lid, and I enjoy tying these for fun and for speed, and using just one material and two tools. So here I've got some flex floss made by Spirit River, super inexpensive, whole bunch of strands for all of
Hold it up in front of the vice shop.
Yeah.
There you go.
For all of maybe $3 retail. This will tie a lot of really quick, speedy rockworms. Some 200R hooks. Go ahead and put those in the jaws. Set it in as you normally would. Forgive the shaky hands. I'm sure those will go away soon, maybe with a couple more sips of beer. And then for tools, pair of scissors and a whip finisher. So to get it started, I am just going to treat the flex floss as if it were thread from the bobbin. I'm going to hold my tag in just behind the hook, and I'm going to start wrapping right behind the eye, and I'm just going to keep wrapping and keep wrapping and keep wrapping. This does not take a ton of skill. I actually learned this from a young man who was in here searching for flex floss. And I was like, yeah, well, what are you tying? And he told me, I've got this like really awesome fast way of tying rockworms, and you don't need any thread. It's just flex floss or span flex. And I was like, you got to be kidding me, right? And he said, no, seriously, you should try it. You should try it sometime. I'll put another whip finish on there. And so I tried it. Didn't really look back. It's kind of cool. You might add a little bit of glue on top of that knot. Nothing to it.
Go through a lot of rockworms here.
Yeah, we do. We do. Staple diet for the fish in our river system. It's not pretty, it's not perfect, but the fish will eat it.
So we go through a lot of rockworms. I've watched a lot of people tie them, and Addie's variation of the rockworm is like the coolest way of tying a rockworm I've ever seen.
Thank you, Justin.
All right, so now I'm going to reset the camera here. All right, excuse the focus box thing. I can't do a lot about that. I can turn it off. All right. And first of all, thank you guys for coming on. Addie, you're a busy lady, and fortunate enough to have my mom out here in Wyoming visiting. So I figured it'd be a good time to go through and talk about women in fly fishing. And Addie, if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Addie Dees. I manage the Ugly Bug Fly Shop, Crazy Rainbow Fly Fishing, and I spend a lot of hours booking trips and selling fly tying material and gear, a lot of gear, and setting people up, whether they're never have I ever fished before anglers, or if they're, and I fish all year long, I want the best of the best, or we do it all from top to bottom here at the Ugly Bug. And I don't just do that. I chase two teenagers around. I have a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old, and they keep me pretty busy, and a husband too. So yes, my days are full, but I'm very fortunate to work here. I was just telling Kathy and Justin that I'm so fortunate to work around the people that I get to work around, and with the people that I get to work with. Just knowing that I go to work every single day, I'm going to meet somebody or run into a familiar face, and just knowing that I have something in common with everyone that I'm about to meet or that I'm going to interact with for the day. That's kind of a special deal. So whether I'm on the water, or when I was on the water, or in the shop, that's kind of the same story.
Mom, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
I'm Kathy Genthner, and I'm from Michigan. I spend most of my days teaching high school and middle school. Justin is one of my younger of four sons, and we are very blessed that he was able to move out here and become involved with the Ugly Bug family, because they really do watch out for him and take care of him. And I'm fortunate enough to come out and learn to fly fish last summer, and I'm just very happy that we're involved with Ugly Bug.
We actually just got off the river. We're both a little sunburned, as you can see. I guess Dana telling you need to come to Iceland and go ice fishing. Or
maybe not ice fishing, but fly fishing.
Was that just
What
an
is
invite
Iceland?
for you, or was I a part of that invitation? Just asking. Oh, yeah. So, Kathy, maybe your introduction to the sport is similar to mine, maybe not. I feel like I share kind of the same story as a lot of women in the sport. So I grew up in Wyoming. My dad and mom had 3 daughters, and so one of us had to fish while the other 2 were playing with dolls and Barbies. So I took that, and I got to learn a lot of cool things, backpacking and rock climbing and fishing and hunting. And so I've always been intrigued by the outdoors. I've always wanted to be outdoors. But my introduction to the sport was probably 25 years ago, and I was about 13, 14 years old. And it was from, my dad. And that's my first introduction. That was like my fishing buddy all the way through high school, my formative years. And I feel like I share that intro to the sport with a lot of females. How about you?
Well, my parents, we camped a lot, and my dad hunted and fished and brought us along. I never really got into hunting all that much. My boys and my husband do that. I always took the opportunity to go visit somewhere while they were hunting or fishing. But about 15, 20 years ago, when Justin was really little, I became interested in fly fishing. I bought books, I bought gear, I took a fly tying class, the only female in the class, and I really enjoyed it. But I had small boys at the time, and as far as I got was practicing casting in my front yard. That's as far as I got. We live on a river, but it's not a trout river. So fly fishing doesn't really happen a whole lot there. Where I live now, I live on a trout stream now, but the fly fishing stuff just got packed away. And one day Justin picked it up, and I don't think he's looked back since. Taught himself to fish, to tie flies. And when he moved out here a few years ago to go to school, although it was actually for the fly fishing, when we come out every year and Justin takes us fishing, and I've really enjoyed it. And then last summer, taking the Crazy Lady class was a lot of fun. It was fun to be around other women that were interested in fly fishing and who were above and below me in their
Is it true mix?
experience. Yes. And we also on fly tying night brought my 12-year-old niece, who is very in love with fly fishing now. She's a natural.
So her introduction
Yes.
is from other females, which
This
is
is
cool,
true. Right.
So kind of changing it up, like switching the culture a little bit. But yours is pretty much, I mean, that's a pretty unique story. You know, you're like, well, I want to learn how to tie. I want to learn how to fish. And then it got away from you a little bit, but you found your way back to it, which is really awesome. What Kathy was speaking about was the Ugly Bugs and Crazy Ladies event that we kicked off last summer. We did 4 classes, 3-day events for each class, and we invited 16 women to come out and learn how to cast. One night we tied flies and maybe had a few beers and some wine. Night 2, and told some awesome stories and listened to Blake Jackson tell some epic guide stories. His stories are good. And then they went guided full day on the water the 3rd day, and they did that for all of, under $400. I think it was $300 price point, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
And it was incredible how many women wanted to be a part of, and we're so excited. And each group was so diverse, every skill level, every age, you name it. It's just the diversity within a women's group. It was so cool, and each group was built out like that, just naturally. And it was such a cool deal that we're actually doing that again this summer. We have 3 classes lined out for the 101, and then next week we actually start the 201. And Kathy, I wish your spring break wasn't over, because this one's going to be really fun. We're actually going to approach fishing a little bit more tactically. We're going to do an entomology course next Thursday night. Friday we're going to go out to the ranch, Gray Reef Ranch. Our company has private access, and we're going to do some wade fishing. And then they'll go full day guided, premium spot, April fly fishing on the North Platte, Gray Reef. It's a big deal, and just like a killer price point. And so this thing has just grown. It's not out of control, but it's been fun and fast. And the chicks are digging it.
You'll have to do it again, because that's what I need.
Yeah.
But I do have to say I was a little bit not hesitant to come to the class, but I'm not from around here, and just walking around when people were just gathering, women knew each other, but there were actually quite a few women who didn't know anyone. And I immediately felt welcomed. Immediately there were people to talk to, even though I knew no one. Right. And it took a lot of the intimidation away from that.
I think it's fair to talk a little bit more about the program and how our vision was to make this a more inclusive sport. This does not just belong to the old retired male. The sport belongs to so many more people, young kids, middle age, and women of all ages. We're here. We're not going anywhere. So it's time to piggyback a little bit off of Orvis's 50-50 on the water campaign. And that's kind of where we started. Was, okay, their vision is to get more females on the water. Let's make the ratio 50-50 instead of just being this small population, this small demographic in fly fishing. So we are... What are you reading over there, Justin?
A story that I wasn't going to tell.
Hold on. Is that the story your mom was going to tell?
One of them.
It's not the bear repellent story.
Oh, Rick.
Sorry.
I love it. No, that's quite all right. But no, just kind of piggybacking off that vision of changing the culture of fly shops, changing the culture of how women are treated in the sport. And I don't necessarily think people intentionally treat us poorly. I think that we're approached often as if we probably don't know what we're talking about, or that we must be brand new, or, things must be dumbed down for us. I mean, what has your experience has been walking into fly? I mean, I know you've been comfortable here at the Ugly Bug, because we make that a purposeful.
Right.
we do that on purpose. But what about other places you've been?
Well, I mentioned a little while ago that I now live on a trout stream, and there's a couple of fly shops near me. And in the fall, there's the salmon run. So a lot of fishing happens for salmon. And I went into the local fly shop and was just asking about some places to go because my family's used to fishing the rivers a little more north of where we live. And I was just asking around, and the gentleman was very nice. However, he kept saying, like, when he got bugs out for me, he's like, well, when your husband ties these on, or this for your husband, or tell your husband. And so through the course of the conversation, he learned that I had been out here fishing and that I know a little bit about what I'm doing. And eventually I'd gotten my gear out of the car because he wanted to show me some things. And once he realized that I knew some things, he wasn't, he didn't talk down to me. He wasn't rude. He was very welcoming. But we did have to get past that hurdle at the beginning of him thinking that I was in there asking for my husband.
Sure.
What flies my husband wants.
You must be in here shopping for somebody else. Or I've even experienced in the fly shop here, unbeknownst to the customer walking through the door that, I've been on the water for a few days guiding, and hi, sir, can I help you today? No, I want to talk to him, and just pass me on by. And I just smile and say, absolutely, whatever we can do for you. But it's, it's out there.
Right.
It's out there, and it shouldn't be. And the only way to change that is to, be present and to learn and to keep learning and doing what we're doing, which is just keep fishing.
It makes it a little difficult too, because as we were talking about gear earlier, it's very difficult to go into a fly shop and find gear specifically for women. Waders, I have Orvis Clearwater waders, and they're great because I'm not shaped like a man, and I have worn waders that were made for men, and they're uncomfortable. They either are too baggy or too long or too tight in the wrong areas. And I was very fortunate that I was able to find those and purchase those, because uncomfortable waders is almost
it's a game changer when
Yes.
you're comfortable out there.
Right.
And you feel safe and you can walk straight, stand up straight, and you're not worried about situating your clothing. Like you can concentrate on safely walking through the water on top of slick rocks. And yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What's going on over there, Justin? Does anybody have anything to say? Who's all with us?
Get lots of comments. So we had Taylor chime in a little bit ago.
Hey, Taylor.
That she was in the Crazy Ladies class. She said the class was awesome. And then we had Blake's mom, actually, Arlene.
Hi, Arlene. She's coming soon.
Yeah, she said can't wait for Crazy Ladies fly fishing class in July.
Yes.
And then we have Mel chiming in saying Addie
Oh
is
my
a great
gosh,
guide.
Mel, I miss you. You need to come back and fish.
And as we're going through the stream, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and just drop them in the comments, and we'll get to them when we see them. But you can ask us about almost anything.
I do have lots of stories about Justin.
That's not what the stream's about, Mom.
I feel like it could go in any direction. Don't limit us, Justin. Don't limit us.
But I do have a question for both of you.
Mhm.
Addie, I believe I've asked you this question before, and Mom, I don't think I've ever asked you this question. But one of my favorite questions to ask people is, through your fishing career and everything, what fish stands out to you the most? Everyone's got that one fish, that one story. Maybe it's a big fish that you caught. Maybe it's a fish you witnessed caught. But this is one of my favorite questions to ask people.
Yeah.
And you guys, whichever one of you guys wants to answer first, can go ahead. Whichever one of you ladies, I should
Well, I
say.
kind of have two, because Brendan caught the prettiest rainbow trout I've ever seen today. It was silvery and beautiful. But where did you take us that last day we were here in the summer, where that little campsite was?
That's an undisclosed location.
Okay.
I knew that was coming.
I caught just this little brookie, but it was the perfect little fish. It was so pretty and just that so far is my absolute favorite fish so far.
It is in the Bighorn Mountains in Wyoming. That's as close as you guys are getting.
Wyoming. It's in Wyoming. You have to come
It's
to
in
Wyoming.
Wyoming. Yeah.
Okay. How about your second one?
Well, it was Brendan's pretty fish he caught today. That
Oh,
fish
okay.
was
So the
pretty.
first one was the rainbow. Okay.
I've got a lot of rainbows on the Platte. That might be the prettiest rainbow I've ever
Really?
seen.
It
You
was
guys got
very
photos
pretty.
of that, I hope?
Yeah, we'll put that one on the shop page.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I'll take it. Hands down, mine was caught season of 2019 with a client from the Healing Waters group. It's an organization put together for veterans of war and veterans of our military. And this gentleman had almost no use of both of his legs. So he was pretty well strapped into the front seat of my boat. And his wife was in the back seat for support. And we were just cruising right along. I believe it was in May. And I got to fish with him for 2 days and just hear his stories of had been a part of this program. And this is the first time that would actually accommodate him on the water, and he's just so fortunate and happy in life, right? Just despite the plight, in spite of the rough things that he had been through, he was just so grateful to be out on the water and fishing. And he hooked into the biggest rainbow trout on, oh my gosh, the biggest fish that had ever been in my boat, down on the bird ranch. And it was incredible. And I think I was smiling bigger holding that fish, because I had to hold the fish for him and sit backwards on my cooler to get into the photograph because he couldn't. And I had never been more humbled and more proud of an angler in my boat. And just, I felt like I was doing something that had a lot of meaning and purpose, and I'm still very proud and humbled by that fish and by that moment. That's my fish story. It wasn't even my fish. Didn't have to be. So.
Doesn't have to be. All right, and then another question for you guys. So you mentioned that going to fly shops can be a little daunting as a woman, and working here in the fly shop with you, Addie, every day. There's been a few times where people come in and, like you said, they just kind of brush you off. Mm-hmm. But if there's something you could say to the women that may be watching this, may be interested in getting into fly fishing, what's some advice you could give to them, or guys out there as well?
Yeah, the sport is for everybody. I do not know everything about fly fishing. You witnessed my rockworm. I don't know everything, and I don't pretend to know everything. I truly feel like the less I think I know, the more I'm willing to learn. And so every single day I learn something about my job or the clients that I'm working for. And I would say that, if you do not feel welcome in the place you're spending your money, go somewhere else. If you do not feel comfortable and the people you choose to surround yourself with different people, and you will always be welcome, female, male angler at the Ugly Bug Fly Shop. You will always be treated with respect from our guide staff and from our employees. And we make an honest effort to for that inclusion. Everyone has a spot. This isn't just for certain people of a certain demographic, of a certain, economic class or age group or sex. It's truly something incredible to experience and enjoy. And if you have an opportunity to do that, absolutely, you should do that. But I'd say first and foremost, if your local fly shop is not doing it for you, you need to change it up a little bit. I don't necessarily think that the culture of fly fishing is very rigid and curmudgeon-y and don't want women. I'm not saying that at all. So please don't think that that's where I'm going with this. It's just slowly changing an old sport that has for so long been male dominated to accommodate females and young kids, and the manufacturers are keying in on this. They're making that better gear for us.
they're doing it all. So we keep moving forward, and we keep putting our foot, on the ground and the next foot forward. I think that we're going to just keep seeing that growth.
You had mentioned earlier that you don't necessarily feel like the guys in the fly shops are intentionally
Sure.
being rude, for lack of a better way of saying that. And I guess I would suggest talking to them. I've gone into my local fly shop and nobody engages with me unless I engage with them first. And I found that if I go in and I talk to one of the workers there, it opens the door for them to see that I am there for myself and that I'm looking for information that they have. And they've been, in my experience, in my local shops, they've been receptive to that.
Sure.
The other thing is I started fly fishing by reading everything, and it was intimidating to me because you have to be able to read the water. You have to know what bugs to use. You have to cast this way. You have to do this. You have to do that. And that's probably part of why it was easy for me to let it slide when my kids were little, because it just seemed so overwhelming. But fortunately, my experience was Justin just threw me in the river. He didn't literally throw me in the river, but we just went in the river and we just worked at it. And I realize now when I go back and read some of those things that just by getting out there and actually doing it, I'm doing most of the things that seemed intimidating in the literature because it was in words. But so my advice would be just get out and do it. And it's not going to be perfect. Trust me, this is my third year maybe, and it's not going to be perfect, but every time you do it, you learn a little something more, and it's fun. I'm a solitary person. I like my own company, so I like being out on the river and just focusing on the task at hand.
I agree with you. There is some level of peace and satisfaction just standing in the water and absolutely just fishing independently. Or it's also a really great sport to have buddies and fish and have some beers or whatever. It's a good time to share with other people, with the people that you love. Like I cannot think of anything more enjoyable than fishing with my kids. Getting teenagers to talk with me and open up and catch some fish and have a little bit of fun, or spend the day with my husband on the water, or my dad. That's one of my favorite pastimes. I love fishing with my dad, and I don't think that's ever going to change for me. So
before my father passed away, we had a fishing trip. We went for salmon. Mm-hmm. I think Justin was on his fly rod. The rest of us were on spinning rods. Yes.
Yeah.
And Justin's the only one that caught anything.
Imagine that. I'll leave it to Justin.
It frustrated my dad. He's like, I'm standing in the river like a tree trunk. I can throw the lure right on their heads, and nothing. Justin comes by, catch
that
small.
Sounds just like Justin.
But that was a wonderful trip that we had with him. Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to. I have two granddaughters. They're almost 4 and 2.5. And I look forward to teaching them on the river behind our house. This trout stream, not trout stream.
Yeah. She lives on the Paramarquette, which it's pretty awesome.
And from what I hear, a pretty nice section of it. The issue I have, it's not like the rivers out here. There's a lot of trees, and it's pretty hard fishing with fly fishing. Technical. Yeah. So, but I work on it. I get out occasionally in the river after work and wade up a few yards and try and get frustrated and
pack it in and say I'll try it tomorrow. That's awesome. You get to fish more than I do, and you have such access to. You really do live in a pretty incredible spot,
and it's beautiful. So even we went fishing with Justin today. We floated, and Justin was disappointed because my youngest son and we don't talk a lot when we're fishing, because we are just taking in, the beauty of the area and just being on the water. And that happens a lot up where I live because it is just so beautiful. And it's just nice just sitting there looking around at everything. But I have this new job teaching high school, and it's up there where all these trout streams are. And so my students and some of my classes have been cluing me in on where to go and what's fished out. And
love it. Are all the kids from that area?
Yes.
Like Justin? I mean,
God have
God mercy on the
I know. Well, God have mercy on the parents.
Yeah,
but,
they are.
Like, he's a fishy. Like, I've been hunting with Justin. We've been goose hunting, duck hunting.
Yeah,
I shot my first deer this year, though, by the way, and I am so dang proud of that. And I cooked it for the first time the other night, and it was incredible. So I'm really just branching out, and it's in this community of people who enjoy the outdoors, who are taking it all in, who are sharing what they love with me, and then I get to find something else that I
Right.
love too.
I've considered branching out into hunting. That one's going to take me a little longer.
Mhm.
And not that I'm opposed to it. It's just,
You should try streamer fishing.
But where I currently live on that trout stream, everybody is like Justin. I have cowboy boots that I don't wear at our other home. But I fit right in up there. Everybody's wearing those big muck boots and
Mhm.
cowboy boots, and camo is generally what everyone wears. So it's right. I'm right in the right place for
Awesome.
sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm kind of ashamed to admit it. I have all this access. I live just across the highway from the river. You can see this beautiful ranch right across, right out, right off my balcony, and a couple of bends in the river. And I don't get out as much as I should. And, the powers that be, children and
Right.
the job, I'm busy a lot, but because of my job, I have like all this access to these mighty fine pieces of water, 9 miles of it, in fact, that stretches from Gray Reef all the way down to Government Bridge. And I haven't gotten out yet this year. Don't shame me, please. But I'm hoping that maybe before you leave, we can get out and go fish the ranch a little bit. Maybe do that this weekend. So
so I just recently moved up on the Pere Marquette, and in the fall it was kind of a transition time for me, so I didn't get out as much as I wanted to. But now that it's it's light later after work, I honestly am hoping, it's my goal to get out at least a couple times a week, and I have to show Justin up.
Yeah.
You did outfish me the other day.
I did. And caught the biggest one.
Yeah,
That's
you did.
awesome.
You did.
I love it. That's fantastic. So,
Real
is anybody
quick,
asking any questions?
Yeah, I was actually about to mention that. Anybody watching, if you guys have any questions at all, fly fishing or just about the sport, about anything we've talked about, or about anything you guys would like to know about, go ahead and drop them in the comments here. But I do have one question for you guys as well.
Okay.
So you guys ladies kind of touched on this a little bit.
To clarify.
But what's the draw to fly fishing for you? Talked a little bit about being able to get out there and some solitude and being able to enjoy the beauty of the river. But what keeps you coming back? What are you chasing?
Mine's a horrible answer. I like catching pretty fish, and trout are pretty.
That's a great answer.
That's like the answer. Can I use your answer? Oh man, yeah. There's a lot to it for me. Like I said, I feel like I get to share it with so many people in my life, and that group of people is just continuously growing. And a lot of being on the water for the last probably decade, I'd say. My dad put me in the first drift boat and taught me how to row a little bit, and then I was actually taught how to really row by another female. Her name is Sarah Hersler. Her and her husband used to guide for us. They hunt steelhead in Idaho now, but she is a phenomenal oarswoman, and she taught me how to row. And I love to row. Like, I don't mind even taking my dad and nephews or kids out fishing just to row a little bit. I absolutely enjoy that. But I would second that pretty fish is not a bad thing, and there's nothing like a big gripping grin.
I've fished. I've deep sea fished. I've caught bass and perch and all that, but trout are just pretty.
They are. They've got to be the prettiest fish. I would agree to that. We have a lot here. So
So do you prefer drift boat fishing or wade fishing?
This has been a hot debate this week.
has it?
Yes.
They're both special in their own ways. There's something special about standing, hearing the current, sweep through your feet. And I think for me, there's just that element of solitude. Like I'm in my own space. And when I am wade fishing, where usually in the boat, I do get to enjoy rowing, but it's in the tight company
Right.
of a couple other anglers, and nothing wrong with that. I enjoy that very much, but there's something special and quiet and satisfying about wade fishing.
I agree. Like today in the drift boat was great because I was with my boys, and that's
You
what
can't beat that.
that was
Yeah.
what made it special.
Sure.
But I really honestly love wade fishing. Justin last summer had his waders, but put us in chastised me for not jumping right into the cold river. It was so cold. I had oh my gosh.
This river warms
Oh.
up, but not was that
Oh,
here?
No, it was
Undisclosed
Undisclosed.
location.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, you guys in your
In
undisclosed-
Wyoming.
Okay. All right, you're in Wyoming.
but high up, so the water was I was numb when we got out.
Near Cody.
Oh gosh, the cold water. Cold
Yeah.
water.
Plus, I have to say it's kind of nice. 'Cause I'm like, oh yeah, I was fishing in Wyoming, fly fishing. And
You've got bragging rights.
Last summer,
Seriously.
my joke was my Indian names fishes with buffalo because we fished a little bit in Yellowstone and there were buffalo footprints there.
I love it. That's gonna stick. I like it. That's awesome. Yeah, there's something special about wade fishing and being in a pair of waders.
Mhm.
And it sounds silly, but did your first pair of waders, like there's some like a legit feeling. Like when you get your first pair of waders and like you're like, I am a fisherwoman now. I'm a fisherman, whatever.
They're honored clothing at my house because all the rest, the guys, they're all hanging in the shed and they're just like, they're mine. So
Yes.
they need taken care of a little extra.
Just an aside here, don't store your waders in the garage, please. Or store your waders in the garage because we work at a fly shop here, but it ruins them. Keep them inside, folks.
Unless you want new waders.
Hmm.
Conundrum.
I think I scraped the knee when I fell the other day.
Yeah. And you picked up the Orvis Clearwater waders, which they're nice. Like Kathy was saying, Orvis is they're known for just their waders and their fit for their clothes for outdoor recreationalists. It's more forgiving. So if you have a chest, if you have hips or a hiney, I think your fit in those are going to be a little bit more true to size and forgiving. I guess maybe forgiving is the word that I'm looking for, than some of the other brands. But I think I own a pair of every weight, not every wader, but a pair from every wader maker. So Simms, Patagonia, Orvis, and they all have their value. But Simms really does do a good job of finding that fit for women. So.
Orvis.
Orvis, rather, thank you.
Well,
I'm a whole Baron, so you please forgive me.
and I like them because they fit when I don't need to wear heavy clothes. But the other day, I quit. I didn't fish when the fly line was freezing, but it was a little chilly, and I was able to layer underneath and still have freedom of movement as I do when I'm not all layered up.
Yeah, and there's a lot to be said to that. When you can move comfortably, when you're walking in moving water and on slick rocks, and you're thinking about what you're doing, putting one foot in front of the other instead of, adjusting your clothing. There's a lot to be said to that. So kudos to making women's gear for fly fishing. And anybody out there listening, if you have any desire to make a wader pant for females,
please, I've talked to 2 women today of the retired age who are newer to fly fishing, but they're like, why don't they make pants for women? I have no desire to get up to the, I have no desire to get up in that deep of water. So it makes more sense to have a pant wader and to also be able to disrobe if I need to use the restroom. I mean, it's just, it's Mother Nature. I'm sorry, guys, but to use the restroom without having to take off all of your top layers to unbuckle your suspenders to, you know. So anyone out there that wants to make pants for women, I've been asking for years now.
But even the lightweight, even the zip off ones, it's hard to find those for women also.
Mm-hmm.
And those can be very restricting. You get the ones that fit your hips.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, the ones that fit my hips, and then they're way too long or way baggy. I look like I have balloon legs, and they're just not comfortable. And so I don't buy them.
I will say, working in the fly shop here, there's a lot more gear available for women now, as you guys said, as you ladies had mentioned. But other than pant waders, is there some, not necessarily gender specific gear you'd be looking for, but is there, what else we're missing for women? Because I know a lot of ladies that come in here, the biggest complaint about the women's gear is it comes in real fruity colors, pink and blue, and nothing's just geared for outdoors women or whatever. It all looks like women's gear.
It's like the pink camo. You know, I at first when I started, and I had to, one lovely thing about fly fishing is there's all kinds of things to buy.
Yes.
Which I absolutely love. And I did at first kind of was drawn to the girly things, but when I bought a fly rod to fish for salmon, and I had the option of getting the purple reel, and I ended up with the gunmetal one because I don't know. I just want something that works. I don't need it to be flashy and pink and glittery and all of that. Although that is nice sometimes, I think.
I think they can be pretty. I think for me, seeing it from a hobbyist perspective and from a professional perspective, I stand out enough. You know, like being a guide on the river, I don't need to wear hot pink. You know, I feel like I stand out enough. Just give me gear that fits a woman. I don't necessarily need anything flashy, but some of the stuff out there is really, really cute. I don't know if you've seen any of the fishy wear stuff. Their trout patterns.
She's decked out in it.
Oh, me?
Man.
Yeah.
What?
That's all your gear with
Like, do you have a pack? Do you have a?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's all I have.
Gorgeous pack. Yeah, fishy wear. Yeah, some of their stuff is super cute.
Yes.
So I'm just, you know, bits and pieces. It just really depends.
To accessorize, you need the cute stuff for an accessory.
That's a thing.
But the other thing is, and my boys laughed at me the other day, I tripped and fell and was disappointed because my waders were dirty.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with them being dirty, but I was just like, oh.
Have you ever smelled my waders?
I would not like to smell your waders.
Exactly. They get dirty.
You row a boat in them for a few months. Not wash them. Wait for it, Justin. If you think they smell bad now.
I don't think they could get much worse. Wader funk is real.
That's funny. Yeah, I'd say that's, you know, for gear, it's to each our own. And I just wish they'd make more of it. I wish manufacturers, and they're not going to start doing it until more women get in the sport. So until more women are purchasing from the fly shops, so fly shops can then order more from the manufacturers. We're just not going to see more and more women's specific gear if the women aren't out there fishing. So we just need to continue growing the sport.
On that same note, something I've been proud to be a part of here, and Addie has done an outstanding job with, is and not to go back to the crazy ladies thing, but just her unique perspective on fly fishing, being able to use that to the advantage of getting more women involved in the sport here. and we've seen a lot more ladies come in, and they're a lot more open with coming into the fly shop and
Sure.
asking questions, and it's really awesome to see. But moving forward from that, like, is there any plans for advancing the Crazy Ladies class? So we have the regular Crazy Ladies class in 201.
Yeah, Ugly
You want
Bugs.
to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, Ugly Bugs and Crazy Ladies 201. Kicks off next week, and we're only going to have 1 week of it, and it's during prime fishing in April. So again, we'll be focused on learning how to read water, approaching fishing in a more tactical manner. We'll be learning about life cycles, and then applying all that knowledge, because that's the best part, is the application. Full day guided fly fishing with professional guides, which, by the way, 99% of those are going to be men, and you're going to be comfortable with those men, because that's what we do here. We really make it a part of the piece to make sure that no question is dumb, ever.
I have to say, when we did that float trip, I did not feel like our guide was talking down or taking on more. He let us do our thing. He gave us tips, but he didn't baby us. I
Right.
guess would be the way.
Right.
And that was nice.
Absolutely. I see it growing. I see more women coming into the 101 just by word of mouth. We haven't really done much in the way of advertising it. A lot of the girls are like, man, we had so much fun. We're just going to come back into the 101 again. And that's okay. That's quite all right. And then we have a lot of the girls that were in the 101 last year in the 201 this year, but also doing the 101 again this year. It was so much fun. And
Yeah.
we look forward to having Cece back, by the way. Like, she's going to be back. Hey, Cece! She's going to be back in about a month from college. And so she'll be a familiar face around here again. And we're excited to have her back. And she was a really intricate piece of that puzzle of making these gals feel welcome and helping us grow the sport and share the vision.
We got Taylor asking, will we have any more classes later this year?
For the 201, Taylor? I'm assuming maybe that's, being part of the 101, you'd probably like to take that natural progression and go into the 201. And if I can twist Blake's arm enough, I can probably get us a week in maybe September or October, and we can have fun chasing some big fish here on the Platte. And just show the interest, and we can build it from there.
That's one good thing about, people coming back to take the 101, you call it, right? You can always practice casting. You can always practice tying flies. You can, it's not like a one and done. You can, you get benefit out of taking it more than once if you choose to do that.
When I first started guiding, Blake's the owner of the Ugly Bug Fly Shop. He told me, he says, you really, when you are comfortable out there, when fishing has almost become monotonous, like, you need to fish that much that it is not boring, but like, and I just, like, will I ever be bored of fishing? Will I ever not feel like a kid at Christmas opening a present? Every fish I catch, I still feel like that. It's still that exciting to me. I don't, I don't ever see it getting boring for me, or, did you understand?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
I will say my mom, I've been fortunate enough to fish with a lot of people, but the respect and appreciation of each fish she catches it's kind of humbling. Sometimes it's, trout are kind of wimps. They can't stay out of the water very long. Sometimes it's like, all right, you need to give them a drink now. But I will say a lot of the women I fish with, the just appreciation of the natural beauty of fish it's humbling, because it is really easy to get jaded to catching fish and just not stopping to smell the roses, if you will, or just appreciate the natural beauty of a fish and how perfectly they blend in.
Mm-hmm.
Just the colors, and the little things, the spots, how the sun shines on the fins.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, when I've been fishing before, it was always about getting the bigger fish. I mean, that was the whole point, who got the biggest fish. And although I got the biggest fish when I was fishing with the boys the other day, that's not really the point that
I mean, throw that out there.
Allegedly.
Absolutely. Right. Whatever.
Now he changes his story. But I do just any fish is maybe it's just because I'm still feeling like I'm so new at it that if I catch a fish, I'm just like, yes, I finally did something right.
Maybe I haven't caught enough fish, but I still feel like that when I catch fish. And I think too that feeling and that behavior toward the sport and toward these resources, the fish, the water, that's a very learned behavior. And if you're the first introduction to this sport, to that gal, to that young man, or whoever you're sharing your fly fishing experience with, fly fishing experience with for the first time, it's kind of on you to teach them that ethical element, that respect element, just what you value about fishing. And I think you're missing it if you don't on some level share that education piece about why it's important to take care of our waters and why it's important to take care of our fish and why not find the beauty in that.
One thing I taught my kids growing up, because they do hunt and fish, was they were not allowed to kill anything they didn't eat, was the rule of it. And Justin is a catch and release fisherman, but occasionally, like when my niece was out, he kept a couple of her fish and cooked them, and they ate them right there by the river. And I don't eat fish myself, but which is great for me to be a catch and release fisherwoman. Sure. But even that was something that was very impactful to her. Also, like you said, it's a learned behavior. We throw them, we put them back. We don't throw them back. But if you are going to take them,
sure,
enjoy. And I don't mean to say enjoy, but make good use of them, I guess.
Absolutely. Justin, so I have to just say this online and out there, like, you've killed squirrel and you've eaten squirrel. I have to share this with everybody. This kid is the most serious hunter fisherman. I think that's why he's going to be great this season out on the water. But that you must eat what you kill. He took that very seriously.
Yeah, they must eat it. That's why I don't hunt.
Instant pots are great for cooking squirrel.
There's one thing.
I love it. Thank you for jumping in on that, Justin.
But there's one thing about Justin. He has this innate knowledge of how to cook things and bring out their best flavors. And he does.
He's shared cooking tips with me before. I'm taking cooking tips from a 22-year-old man in the fly shop. I'm 40 years old and have a family that I cook for every evening. And I listen to what he has to say. I value.
Ladies, but back to fly fishing now.
Anything else online? Any other questions that we have tonight?
I see my husband's been like every comment over there.
Yeah, talking about a little bit ago about you kayaking and canoe paddling. So growing up with you, we did spend a lot of time in canoes and kayaks. Do you feel like, because you're a pretty serious kayaker, do you feel like there's any translation between that and fly fishing? Maybe reading water, understanding how hydraulics work?
So when you were first saying that, I was thinking I can't fish from a kayak because I get too excited and I just don't trust myself in a kayak. However, I think so because it's a little bit different to read the water to know where the fish are, but because I know how to read the water to know where it's safe to go. I have not whitewater kayaked. It's touring kayaking, I guess, because the rivers we live on are not.
There's no whitewater.
Are they calm like the North Platte? I mean,
similar to the Platte. There's a lot of wood and a lot of structure, which honestly is a little scarier than whitewater, because whitewater you can see,
Right.
Whereas some of the structure there you cannot.
Oh.
And whitewater you can swim out of. You can't swim out of a log jam.
Right.
But I know that Justin has fished from the kayak, and I'm very comfortable in my kayak. I can stand up in it. I am never tippy and worried. I took a class, which was the best thing I ever did. Before I got in my kayak, we swamped them and had to climb into them without being able to touch bottom and all that. So, as comfortable as I am in a kayak, I still don't think I could fish from one because I get too excited when I catch a fish.
There's a lot of things going on, and if you're trying to kayak on the North Platte, and it's just like you're trying to hold a line or catch the perfect drift, or when you hook in, where are you going?
Right.
And you have to continue to go, because a lot of times on the North Platte you just don't have that private access to be able to just pull it over and land your fish. I don't know. I've yet to fish from a kayak.
Ooh, that's a good point there. So, a lot of states have very different access laws. In Wyoming, we're pretty fortunate here in Casper to have a lot of public access. But if you want to touch on, fishing in Michigan, the ability to access any water that is navigable from any bridge or anywhere, you can access all of it. Doesn't matter if it goes through private.
And there's a certain amount of footage
to the
back from the bank that you're allowed to.
So it's an interesting the different regulations on that. But in Michigan, we would talk about some of the weird places that we've been and fished, and
You stumped me there. I'm not quite sure what you're asking me.
like some of the more unique places, like some of the like salmon weirs and all of that, and being able to fish through gated communities and private land.
You can go through, and if you get in trouble, you can just get out anywhere you are. You don't have to worry about who owns it, if it's public or not. The only regulation really that we have to worry about is by dams and the weirs. There's a certain amount of area you can't fish in unless you're a Native American. But I've gone fly fishing for salmon. I hooked into 2 but didn't get any. But that is a growing sport in northern Michigan, and you have the easy access to go just about anywhere in the river. But because it's growing, you get more people that aren't there for the sport. They're more there to catch the salmon and just have them, as opposed to that process of fishing for them. And so that easy access that we have on the rivers can sometimes be a detriment also, because once salmon fishing season's over, then you have a messy river that you have to have someone go clean up, because they leave their line everywhere. They leave beer cans everywhere. It's a mess. And so, there's benefits, of course, to being able to go in the water you want to, but there can also be, detriment to it also.
Sure.
And Addie, if you'd like to touch on public land here in Wyoming, and then I've got another question after that.
Sure. No, here it's kind of a special thing to have private access. The river bottom belongs to the landowner. So if you are floating through what would be private land, the water you are good to go on, but you're not allowed to drop anchor just anywhere you please. Otherwise, you're trespassing. I think if you get into a bind, you might squeeze out of a ticket, but mostly there are signs all up and down our river that indicate whether you're on public or you're on private. So I think that, the Game and Fish and the BLM have done a very good job of indicating what is public, what is not, what is state, what is federal, what is private. And it, like I said, it's kind of a special deal if you have that private access. And we're fortunate enough, Ugly Bug Crazy Rainbow, to have about 9 miles of that river left heading downstream from Gray Reef to Government Bridge. But again, I can't help but to hear what you say. Like, people just come in and trash it. People come into a place that you value and trash it. And it's hard to hear. It's hard to hear that nobody took that time and, maybe made a point to talk about the value and the ethical and the education piece that, that's so important to keep the resources.
Right. Well, years ago, it was really just the locals and a
Mhm.
few people that knew to go salmon fishing there. But the fishing had been so good for so long.
Right.
I mean, we had one summer, and we only get to fish. Well, I wasn't fishing then, but they only get to fish a couple weekends during the fall because at the time we lived 6-7 hours away from there, so it was only going up on the weekend. But one summer we had 22 salmon in our freezer.
Wow.
And then that was years ago. But then word got out that the salmon were plentiful, and yeah, they. And it's not to say that there aren't people that respect the river, but it literally is shoulder to shoulder, and tempers flare. I did go salmon fishing this fall, and that was kind of nice, like you said, with the camaraderie, because we were just standing in the middle of the river before dawn and just talking with our friend that was with us, and it was kind of nice. But down the river, a fight broke out, and it's just
the combat fishing's not a fun scenario, and nobody wishes for that when they're out there. Nobody wants to see that or hear that,
and then when the
be a part
language
of that.
starts going, it's like, this is a special time.
So it's actually a pretty good segue into this. So, as women who fly fish and fish alone on your own, how do you guys feel about accessing public land to fish, access areas by yourself? Is there some tips you might have for other women out there that may be fishing alone, or just maybe some things you guys have run into while fishing public access? I know you've got one story as a guide for sure, but what are some things about accessing and fishing alone as a woman that some of the people getting into the sport may not think of?
Always just say, this is a general rule of thumb, being a female or really anybody, be aware of your surroundings. Be absolutely aware of your surroundings. And we were talking about this before we went live this evening, but you carry.
Yeah, I don't remember the brand of it, but I have a holster that straps kind of crisscross, goes around my shoulders, and it has a rain jacket on it. So I carry my firearm when I'm out by myself, trying to train my dog to come along with me and kind of patrol too, but he's not there. It may never be.
Nothing wrong with that.
Her chocolate lab Henry is named after Henry Repeating Arms, but it's the most gun-shy dog I've ever encountered.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
So it's not just a clever name.
No.
Okay.
No, unfortunately, he has a lot of traits that he might have been a puppy mill dog.
And,
So
So we have Scott Novotny, who is the head of the Gray Reef Chapter Trout Unlimited.
Hey, Scott.
And he says Gray Reef Trout Unlimited is always looking for new members. Hoping to get some hints tonight on how to recruit female members, young men and women, to help expand the Trout Unlimited membership nationwide.
Yeah, I'd say first and foremost, make it fun. Don't make it daunting. Make it exciting. Make it something. Here's one thing about girls. When they want to do something, they love to bring another friend or a couple friends along. So the first night you came to tie with us, you even brought your niece along. So not only did we get Kathy, we got Alex too, right?
right.
And so that's one thing about girls. They love to enjoy new things with their friends. And so as long as you make it fun and exciting, I think women will kind of just flock, like naturally they'll gravitate toward it, and it just make it comfortable, have the other women that are already members introduce it, and then you can introduce the man element, which is kind of what we did with Ugly Bugs and Crazy Ladies. We said, look, we're going to take you to the park and learn how to cast. or meet you where you're at in casting. So we worked on basic casts, and then we did, some of the girls were double hauling the first night. And then night 2, we did fly tying, and then Blake came along, and Blake led the tying while we joined and helped out. So we kind of introduced Blake into the program. And then by day 3, they were with all male guides, and it was a unique course. It is a unique course, but I think by having other females like say, hey, come along, do this with us, is fun and intriguing.
I do some training, not fishing, but traditionally not a women's thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the intimidation factor is high also. I do firearms training. And I find that if we do it in kind of like the old Tupperware party,
Right.
oftentimes just get your friends together,
Mm-hmm.
We'll, bring treats, have food, and we'll
Mhm.
just sit around and get through it. It really does, it's more attractive
Absolutely.
to women who are thinking about it but not quite sure.
Mm-hmm.
And as a guy that works in the fly fishing industry, what are some things you guys would like to see, or you ladies, sorry, you
You'll get
ladies
it.
would like to see, in the fly fishing industry to make it more inclusive, not just necessarily for women, but as you mentioned earlier in the stream, traditionally fly fishing has been kind of an old white guy sport.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of our clientele does kind of fall into that category, but as you've seen as well, working here, it's started to expand. But what are some ways to some people that may be watching this that we can make fly fishing more inclusive?
Well,
Not necessarily to just women, but to everybody.
Well, I think having classes like the Crazy Ladies, because it is intimidating, fly fishing, because as I said, there's so much you have to, the equipment and the reading the water and knowing the bugs, and that can be very off-putting. But having classes, being visible out there with different communities, I think is key to bringing more people in to kind of take that intimidation factor down, or even just get them a little bit intrigued or interested.
Right. I think it's that starting point. And for us, building the class out in July meant that you're going to have excellent weather to fish. Right. It can be a shorts, flip flops, ball cap, sunglasses kind of thing, and we're going to go out and we're going to fish. And then now we're kind of graduated into the colder months with the colder water, where you're going to need a little bit more gear, but the fishing is going to be a lot better. And I think it's just picking what most people enjoy, just sharing a good time, being outdoors, picking the right time of year. And that's for us, that was summer, starting it in the summer when the weather's all but guaranteed to be nice, and letting the gals experience it with their friends, and just always being inclusive, always treating everyone as if their questions matter, their learning matters. Like this sport really means something to them. And for me, I think I take a lot of pride in making sure that everyone that walks through the fly shop, I don't care what age, what gender, nothing that you ask me will be treated as if it's dumb, ever.
And something I'd like to mention here, both my parents, my mom and my dad, who's been commenting quite a bit in here, they're both teachers, and they both taught in Detroit, Michigan. It's, I just wanted to mention that they're very good people.
Well, your dad has brought some people that he met out and shared fishing with them a few times.
Mm-hmm.
Some of his fellow coworkers that really, sometimes when you live in a big city, you don't have the opportunity to get outside of the city.
Sure.
And probably just like people like us that don't live in the city, you have preconceived expectations of what's there. So they were very happy to come. We took them canoe fishing, and they very much enjoyed their time. It was like it was very nice. They did enjoy it.
And then we got a question coming in here. Addie Do you find that female clients prefer you as a guide over male guides, or do you think there's any correlation there?
Not necessarily. I think that so long as from the booking process, from them coming into the shop or calling, so long as they feel comfortable that they can trust you to build their vacation or their fishing trip with the perfect guide, because that's what we do. We fit the right client with the right guide. I mean, that's part of the job. I don't think that they necessarily say, I need to have a female teach me how to fish. I think there is something special there if you can make that. But our guides are really good at molding to meet those client needs. So it's not just something that I can provide. It is actually something that every guide that Crazy Rainbow has on staff can actually do for our clients, male and female. But there is something special about sharing someone's first fish. And that is not just for me. I'm sure, Justin, have you fished with clients yet that have never fished before? You caught a first fish with anybody yet?
Oh, many, many people.
Okay, all right. There's something very special about that. So
There's one thing,
good question.
Justin's dad, a lot of our nieces have caught their first fish
nephews,
with Rick. Yeah, they
random friends.
not fly fishing necessarily, but a lot of people can chalk up to catching their first fish with Justin's dad.
That's awesome.
One thing I'm impressed with Justin about is he's very patient. He's he has he knows how to teach. He just has an ability to do that. And I was just telling he and my other son today in the boat that there's no way I could have homeschooled them, even though teaching is, my career, because I wouldn't have had the patience to teach my own children. And Justin, even with us, even his little brother and I, gets a little frustrated, but he still is professional about it. Because he could so.
I think it's one thing
knock us
learning
down.
from an instructor and learning someone that has the heart of a teacher. I think there's a difference. And
Yes.
Justin's going to be, he's going to have his spot on the guide staff, and he'll fit in just fine.
All right. Well, I want to thank you both for taking the time to come on the live stream tonight. And this isn't our usual Friday night live stream. Usually this is fly tying, but I appreciate the opportunity to ask you guys some questions and share your views on fly fishing. Something here at the Ugly Bug and as a whole with our operation that we've been trying to do is make fly fishing more inclusive. Kind of getting away from the traditional norms, and I'm proud to be part of that, and I'm proud to have Addie on my team here, and proud to have my mom come out here and take an interest in something that's very near and dear to me. And next week we will be tying flies again. But I hope you guys all enjoyed this. I hope you maybe learned something. Maybe this was a little eye opener to some people. But if you guys have anything you'd like to say?
No, just thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for the support. Thanks for watching. If you need anything at all, we're here at the Ugly Bug Fly Shop, Crazy Rainbow Fly Fishing, and we'd love to fish with you.
And thank you for having me.
Well, thank you to everybody that watched, and we, as we go forward from here with the Friday night live streams, we'll have some more guests. We've got some stuff in the works for some pretty cool guests as well. But just thank you again, ladies, for coming on tonight, and to everybody watching, thank you again, and y'all have a good night.
Good night.
Thanks.